Hello class, my name is Kiara Galson. I'm here to talk about digital imaging and photography. If you would just scroll over to the next page, we can go ahead and talk about the background. Now, digital imaging can range from family photography, it can be x-rays, geosatellite imaging, anything like that can be considered a digital image. The first photograph that was ever taken was captured by Joseph Nipsey. The process came from experimenting with lithoscopes, things of that nature. Over the next 150 years, photography would continue to evolve. Photo manipulation can consist of what we know it to be filters in today's society, or the altering of images. This can be toning, blemish removal, background appearances, things like that. Since 1906, photos have been manipulated. So photos have been manipulated for quite some time now. And we can go ahead and go over to the next slide. We can talk about the camera itself. The camera is one of the most known devices to capture photo. Kodak was one of the first manufacturers to produce a prototype of a digital camera, and that came in 1975. The megapixel for this camera was 0.01, and it was the size of pretty much a toaster. 0.01 megapixels is definitely not a lot for a camera, so we can kind of see where that camera where they took that picture and how that picture can compare to, say, today when we think about the megapixels of today's cameras. During the span of the 1990s, Apple and similar manufacturers started to produce cameras at a larger rate. And these cameras are more so what we know them today to be DSC cameras or DSLR cameras. We can go ahead and go over to the next slide. We can talk about the status of digital imaging. Digital imaging is everywhere. It's growing at a fast pace, and we have to basically keep up with that pace. Digital imaging went from 350 billion in 2010 to 1.3 trillion in 2017. That means that the pictures that they have taken with these cameras is 1.3 trillion pictures today in 2017. That means that 30% of all images will be captured during this year. That's a lot when you think about in the grand scheme of things and how photography and photos can basically capture everything in your life. You gotta think 30% of that is gonna be captured on photo. Humans take more photos now than they have ever done before. And not only that, 1 trillion images get uploaded to social media yearly. 1.3 trillion images are taken by mobile devices. We can go ahead and scroll to from cameras to photos. Camera phones are the new way of capturing images on the go. It is believed that smartphones will be the main outlet for digital imaging in the future. Digital camera sales have fallen due to the rise of pictures being taken by smartphones. So think about it, you don't carry your DSLR camera every single where you go, especially if you're not a photographer. But even if you are, you're going to have your phone with you wherever you are. And typically it's going to be what's most handy. And once you use that phone, you're going to be able to upload that to social media. You're going to be able to upload it or send it via email, via text message. So that's a whole lot easier to use and faster to use versus you using a digital camera. I'm sorry. So when we think about from a camera to a phone and how it's very easily accessible and how we can take that phone and we can have it anywhere with us. We can be at concerts with our phone. Typically, you can't bring a camera inside of a concert. So a lot of times you would use your phone or to some type of basketball game, unless you are the photographer that's there. More than likely, you really can't even use it. So that's why phones have definitely taken over because of the convenience that the phones do have. Digital camera sales have fallen due to the rise of pictures being taken by smartphones. As you can see, if you already have it on your phone, then why buy a camera? That's a lot of times the thought process of people who, decide they want to use their cameras that's on their phones versus getting their own DSLR camera. Since 2014, DSLR cameras the sales have dropped by 15%. If we can go over to the next slide, we can talk about whether or not that we consider there to be a career in photography. So is digital imaging a growing field? the increase expectancy is only 3% projected over the next decade. So not just next year, not just the year after that, the next decade, we're only looking at maybe 3%. So the question is, how can we fix that? Or how can we make sure that we merge it with something else so that we can still be able to have a growing field, but do other things that we want to do? And the answer to that question is to merge it with other occupations. So if you're a sports analyst, if you are a marketing exec, if you are a fashion model, take photography and use that into those fields and those occupations, and then that way you will still be able to utilize digital imaging in another occupation. That's definitely one of the easier ways, or one of the best ways to continue the success and the growth of digital imaging over the next decade. So hopefully that'll kind of counteract that 3%. We go over to the next slide. We can talk about the advancement timeline. So 15 years ago, first digital phones camera capabilities were released. There were no photo editing apps, and there was no social media. So when we think about today, we have photo editing apps, and we also have social media. And that's how we can gauge the timeline and the fact that we are advancing as far as digital imaging is concerned. So if we think about 15 years ahead, then we have more use of the mobile phone. We have more use of the photo editing applications, and it's easier to use editing and sharing, which means that where we are today is still going to be so much further down the line than where we are going. So I do pose this question for you guys. With the rise of the smartphone camera, will the smartphone be the camera of the future, or will it be an all-in-one access at the palm of your hand? Or will that digital camera still be able to make strides and still be able to sell? So again, with the rise of the smartphone camera, will the smartphone be an all-in-one kind of access camera, or will you still be able to use digital cameras so far down the line, let's say a decade or 15 years from now? Will that digital camera still be very important to our use, or will the smartphone really take over? Thank you guys so much. Again, my name is Kiara Galson. I hope you enjoyed.